Hello, my name is Ezra Uche and welcome to the Learn Codea YouTube channel. In this tutorial, we'll be learning how to make Flappy Bird in Codea. So what is Codea? Codea is basically an app in the App Store which you can use to make games, applications, and basically anything you can code up in your head. So on the iPad and on iOS. I think soon it might come on MacBook, but we'll have to see about that. So let's go back to this tutorial. So in this tutorial, we'll be talking about how to make Flappy Bird. So we'll be making this text moving over here. We'll also be making this post animation over here and this ball, which is supposed to be a bird, but I wanted to keep it as a ball to show how to render ellipses and shapes and all that stuff. And basically this grid pattern, which we'll be using shaders to accomplish. So this tutorial will be covering a lot of features. By the end of the tutorial, we'll be able to create comfortably more like Codea projects and all these type of stuff. And even if you haven't coded before, it'll give you a good fundamental on how the coding works, and you won't have to actually learn how to the language of Codea. Codea actually uses Lua, so if you wanted to know, yeah, I'll be teaching you how to do all that through this tutorial. So let me play this game over here to show you how it works. So I'm gonna play start, tap to start. See how there's a timer, a score over there? So I'm not that good, but you see how there's a game over screen over here and a restart button? Yeah, in this tutorial we'll be covering how to do this, but not in this part. This part will just be making how to make the bird go up and down. So let me restart. You also hear that there's sound effects over here. The sound effects, you die, you hit, and let me go and actually go through one of them so my score isn't actually 0. Oh. This might take a while because I'm not good at Flappy Bird, if you can know. See how now it goes up, the score goes up? Yep, that's what we'll be coding that also with Codea. And you see how the score over here was 3 and 3 over there. So yeah, we'll be doing that also in Codea. So stick along in this tutorial, and by the end of it, you'll be able to make your own Flappy Bird clone in Codea. Well, thank you. We'll be going to the next part. Once you've downloaded Codea, this should be the first thing that comes up to your page. Well, not exactly looking like this. You'll probably have an empty project, a different image and all that type of stuff, but around this type of look should be similar. So what we want to do is that we want to click on create new, and we want to change the project template to modern because we'll be using modern this time. And we want to change, let's pick a name. Oh, sorry about that. Let's be picking a name for the project. I'll just call it Flappy Bird. I won't have the second P since I already have one called Flappy Bird. And you can change the tint of the project to, I'll change it to a somewhat of maybe a pinkish color over here. And now let's click create. Oh, no. So one thing we have is we say this empty project over here. We have the setup and we also have the draw. The setup is where we will write up all our entities and all our stuff, because in the modern version we use entities. In the old version, even in the modern version, you can use classes, but in this video we'll be using entities. And in the bottom one is the background. The background just changes the background color. This changes the stroke width, and this prints to the console. So let's start writing some code for the Flappy Bird game. So I'm going to be writing viewer mode is equal to full screen. What this does is basically just make the screen open up in full screen. It doesn't have no debugging, no nothing, just full screen. Next, we will add a line of code called game world is equal to scene default 2D, and the next one is scene.main is equal to game world. So what we've done in this line of code is basically created a new scene that is a 2D scene, and we've basically made that scene to become the main scene. Scene.main makes it into this main scene. So two other stuff we want to do is do game world dot camera dot get get camera author size. Basic, and we're going to set that to be 24. And the next one, before I explain it, is the game world dot pixels per unit is equal to 64. So what this is basically doing is this first line of code is basically telling how many units in the y-axis we have. So the modern Codea uses units, not pixels. Usually you have like, this is 100 by 100 pixels, but this one we use units. And right now we're setting the units to be 24. So on the top, it will be positive 12, negative, on the bottom will be negative 12, just like an X and Y graph. So if we like basically adjust for the width of our devices, this one is a 4x3 device, this iPad Pro I have. So this would be around 16 and this would be negative 16 on the X. So this just changes the Y axis. And it's supposed to have an iPhone, it'd probably be around 36, something like that high, because it's a 16 by 9. So this pixels per unit, basically what it does is just change how many pixels are in each of those small units. That's what it does. And we're choosing to make it 64. So what I'm going to do is make an entity, and it's going to be called bird. And I'm going to make to make an entity, I basically just call the name of the scene and just do colon entity, just create an entity, and I'm going to call it bird. The next thing I'm going to do is go bird dot add bird. What this basically is doing is adding a component called bird, which we haven't made yet, which we'll make just in a second. And we're basically making this parameter is going to be the radius. You'll see it soon. So what we want to do first is make the bird class, as we said before. So we're going to go to new class, type in bird. And this is like what the first thing you're going to do. So this init and these are like the basic stuff that come in when you first create a class. But this is for when you're using the class system. Right now we're using the scene system. So we're going to change this init to created. That's the way we use it. That's how you make a class, like the first thing that happens when you're using a class system. So I say change this to created, and we're not going to use touched. So we're going to remove this function. Now we're going to keep the draw. The draw will be there, and we'll probably remove the X. No, we'll replace the X with radius. If you saw before, I wrote 1.2 over there. That 1.2 is the radius of the bird. So basically what this is doing, when you're adding an entity, you're basically writing the name of the class and all the parameters of the entity afterwards. So the first parameter is radius. Suppose we had the second one, it would be, let's say it's, I don't know, stroke width, which we're not going to do, but basically we'll just add that stroke width down over there. So we're going to change this to radius. So basically we're changing this stuff will basically add a variable in the class called radius. And basically another thing we want to do is write colors is equal to stroke color, which is equal to color dot. I'm not gonna add anything right inside of that yet. And then one thing we're gonna do next is put the field color, which is going to be equal to, what do you say? Just an empty color. So we'll fill those up later. So right now, I want to explain. So what we did over here is basically created a dictionary. This dictionary has a component, like each of them, like one has a stroke and the other one has a fill color. A dictionary allows us to basically call these like individual stuff outside. You'll see how we call them, and like using the names of them. So we can use like color dot stroke color, and it'll give us this color dot fill color, which will give us this fill color. So let's set up the color. One thing you can do in Codea is that if you want to automatically fill up a color, you can click on that color wheel and just change the color, and it'll automatically make the colors for you, which is a very nice feature. But for this tutorial, I have my own set colors because I want to make it very similar to the original. So I'm going to put in this color combination. If you want to copy, you can copy too. And for the fill color, I have my own one. Basically, it's 211, 209, and 187. So this is the color combination we're going to do. Now, what we're going to do now is that we're going to draw what we have. So in order to draw I feel like I forgot to add a colon over here. So a comma over there. So in order to make a drawing, we basically just write an ellipse. We make ellipse dot and 0, 0, 0, 0. Since we're using the scene system, we do 0, 0. What this X and Y, as you saw before, it basically, if you're using the scene system, what it will just act as is an offset from your original position. We can set the position ourselves. This 0, 0 will basically just be an offset. So we don't really want an offset, so we keep it as 0, 0. Then we just do self.radius. And basically, we're gonna have a very boring looking circle. Let's run it. Oh, I think I made a mistake. Yes, I did. Where was that bug? It was in Flappy Bird 20. Which one? I think I made a little mistake somewhere. Where is that good mistake? Okay, we'll be back when I find it. Okay, future Israel here. I found the mistake. So if you go to the main function, you remove this S because it's pixels per unit, not pixels per unit. And then you click run. Then you'll see a circle in the middle of the screen, which is great. So let's go back to the bird class, which we had before. Basically, we're going to change the style of the bird, make it a little better. In order to change the style, we do style dot push dot fill. And then I'm going to set the fill color to be the color we made before. So colors dot fill, which is this color. And to make now what we're gonna do is also add a stroke. So we're gonna do stroke dot colors dot stroke color. And I want to change the stroke width. I'm gonna set it to something simple for now. Stroke width. I'm gonna say 0.3. So, but that's only. I'll explain a little more. So, and also I want to do something which is change the ellipse to basically become radius mode. Basically, what this does is just make the ellipse start from the center, not from like the bottom left of the screen. So I'm gonna change it to radius down here. And in order to get rid of a style, like after we've used it, we do style dot pop. Pop. Basically, what it's gonna do is get rid of it once we've finished using it. Nice. So this this stroke width sadly is in pixels and not in units. Maybe it might be fixed. Maybe I don't know. But for now, it's in pixels. So we have to change it to units. In order to do that, remember when we set the pixel size? We're basically gonna multiply that number, that 0.3, by scene dot main dot pixels per. Hopefully I write this one. Pixels per unit. That's gonna just be the stroke size. This will be in pixels, but now we want to change that to units. So basically, what we're gonna do, okay, sorry about that. So what I'm gonna do is now Chinese. It seems like I have a little boogie. Yeah. Okay, nice. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get that stroke width. In order to get the stroke width, we're gonna just go local.line width. Local basically makes a local variable in Lua. And basically, we're gonna put it to be equal to style.stroke.stroke width. So basically what's it gonna do, since we've left it empty, it will get the thing. If we had put something in, it would have set it, but since we left it empty, it's gonna get it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna minus this by line width divided by 2. The reason why we want to divide it by 2 is because we want the center of the stroke, not more of the inside of the stroke. So divided by 2, and then we're gonna do scene dot main dot pixels per unit. So basically, this one is spelled wrong. I just realized we'd have a bug if we did that one. So pixels per unit. Now, if we run this beautiful code, we get this lovely looking Flappy Bird over here. I'm kind of bored of this background, so we're gonna go to the background function. If we go back, we're gonna go to background. We're gonna set the background to a somewhat green color. No, let me change it to a somewhat blue color. That seems probably good, and we'll run it. I can tolerate this one, though it's pretty bright. I wanna try to bring it down. and make it a little blue. But okay, so let's go back to the thing. So we've added a, bird, as you saw before. The bird is just in the center, just doing nothing. We want the bird to kind of fall down. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go to the bird, like over here, the main menu, and we're going to go to the bird, and we're going to add, make sure it's after the bird entity, and we're going to go bird.add, and we're going to say physics 2D dot body. So what this is basically gonna do is make a physics body. Basically, if you know Unity, a physics body would just be a way in order to add physics. And we're gonna make that the body dynamic, meaning it's able to fall down and do all those stuff, the normal physics stuff it's supposed to do. Now in the bird entity class, what we're gonna do, and we're basically gonna get that body. Basically, we could do entity self.entity. Oh, let me first explain self.entity. Self.entity is basically the entity of the class. If you use Unity, you can basically say self.entity and it gets the entity. Basically, we can get the entity of this component. So we're gonna get the entity, and we could say .get body 2D, but it's a simpler way. You can say entity.body 2D. Entity.body 2D, which basically would just be like a built-in way of just getting the body 2D. And now we're going to set that body 2D. We're going to add a collider, which is going to be a circle collider, and we're going to set it to be the radius. So the circle collider will have the radius. And we're now going to set that entity.body 2D, and we're going to set the mass to be 1 because we want to have 1. And let's run it. You see how the bird now falls down, which is a great thing. Now, for this, like as a bonus of the video, what we're going to do is we're going to add an ability to jump. So let's go back and let's add, a class, and we're going to call it a jump class. Basically, this is going to be a new component. As I said before, we don't use init. We're going to change it to created. We're actually going to use the touch. We're not going to use a draw. We're going to use update. And we're going to basically make some stuff over here. So first thing we're going to add here is that we're going to need a force. So how much the force, like the jump, is going to be. And basically we're going to do self.force is equal to force. So next over here, we're going to go to that touch method. And basically what we're going to do is if touch, if touch dot state is equal to begin, then we'll basically add all the stuff. We'll say entity dot self.entity dot body 2D apply force. And what force do we have? The force we just set it up before. We're gonna say self.force. Great. So basically what this is trying to do is we have this touch method, which is a built-in touch method you can add in your component. This touch method takes in a touch parameter automatically. You don't have to set it in. And this touch parameter basically brings in stuff whenever a touch has happened. So basically this touch.state is basically telling us what has happened to this touch. And we're basically telling it, in order to make it like count as a real jump, it has to begin a touch. It can't be the touch just happening. The touch actually has to begin in order to add a force and a jump. So we're basically going to go and run the code. Ooh. Oh, that's right. We need to add the component first. So we're going to go to the bird, and we're going to say bird dot add jump. And the jump force, we're probably going to have something like 1,000. I'm going to say, to stick to the original, 1,100. And now let's run. You see how the jump kind of doesn't go. See how sometimes it's not really consistent. The jump is also pretty high. So we're going to change the gravity first. So I want to change the gravity in the update method. I'm going to, change the gravity to maybe scene dot main dot physics 2D dot gravity. So this is going to change the gravity. Gravity is a vector, so we're going to say vector 2D 0 and negative 30. That's it. So let's go and we'll basically add it. See how sometimes when we fall, it doesn't really jump like consistently. It's not really that consistent, like, you know, the real Flappy Bird. Oh, let me go there. Flappy Bird. So what we're gonna do is each time we jump, we're gonna actually set the velocity to be 0, and then we'll jump. So self dot linear velocity. Oh no, never mind. It's entity. You have to do entity dot body 2D dot linear velocity. And that will be equal to, basically we're going to set it to 0 each time we jump. We want to set it to 0. The reason why I set the x-axis to 0 so is because the x-axis is always going to be 0. So let's go back. Each time you tap, you see it's consistently jumping. And what they say, it will jump like all the time. So yeah, we've added a jump method. So next time, what we're going to add is we're going to have the ability to basically stay there until we've touched it, and then we will like jump. So it will just stay in the middle, and then once we touch it, then it'll start falling. That's be the next time we go. So let's just make a little review. So we created a scene over here. We're using this default 2D. The next thing we did was change the size, the units of the scene. We basically make it at 24. So the top is over here will be positive 12. Next will be negative 12. And then we've set each of the units to have 64 pixels. Then we created an entity using this method. So we used the scene we made before and made an entity in that scene. Then we basically added some physics to make it fall down, and a bird component basically to allow us to draw the bird. Then a jump component, which allows us to jump using these force and all that. And then the bird component, we basically added color, changed the mass, added a circle collider, and changed the radius. And you did all the cool drawings using like fill colors. We learned how to change pixels to units, basically by manipulating them. Because if we add like 18, let's say this is 18 pixels, and we changed it divided by 64, it'll give us 18 divided by 64 units. And basically we changed it to ellipse mode. The jump function, we basically added a way to change the gravity by using this method, this way of changing the gravity of a scene. And basically we added a force, and we changed the linear velocity to 0 each time we jump, so it can be a consistent jump. Then we added the force after we've changed it to become a consistent jump. And then at the end, we have this result. So hopefully you enjoyed making this small Flappy Bird clone. Each time you tap, it jumps up and down. Next tutorial, we'll make it like stay still. And we'll also add in pipes for the next tutorial. So hopefully you stay tuned until for the next one. Please like and subscribe so that we can like reach more people to make this game. And hopefully you have a nice time using Codea. Thank you. Have a nice day.